Justice League versus the Fatal Five is yet another DC animated film directed by Sam Liu, who has directed a host of other DC animated films. Not entirely sure if this is in the new continuity or not. It feels like it's its own separate thing, so I guess I'll treat it like it's its own separate thing. They decided to go back to the old school animation style. This is produced by Bruce Timm, so that makes sense. I'm talking about the old animated style that you saw with Justice League, the animated series, Justice League Unlimited, the Batman animated series, the Superman animated series. Pretty much anything from that Bruce Timm era of animation, that is the animation that this movie is based on. The story here is that there's a hero from the future named Starboy who comes crashing to our century, our timeline, our Earth. His timeline, he was facing a fearsome group of supervillains known as the Fatal Five. So now that he's in our timeline, he has brought his problems from the future to our timeline. Now he has to team up with the Justice League of this time and also a new Green Lantern, Jessica Cruz, try to combat the Fatal Five because the Fatal Five is back and they've hooked back up and they're once again wreaking havoc, and it really doesn't matter what timeline they're in. They're just bad news. Everybody who knows me knows what a shameless DC fanboy I am. I love DC. I've loved DC my entire life, and I grew up on this type of animation. You already know what the filmmakers are going for in this movie. They're going for the feels. They're going for that nostalgic feel that you felt when you grew up watching those cartoons. You guys already know the drill. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. It's like the second most powerful drug in the world behind love. You take all the other drugs, you take Xanny, you take Molly, you take all the other pills, you take cocaine, you take crack. Nostalgia is right up there in terms of the baddest drugs of them all. How would I know that? Well, I mean, it's not like I've ever tried cocaine before or anything like that, and even if I had, I wouldn't be admitting it on camera to you guys. Unless, of course, I already accidentally have revealed this in a previous video, in which case, let's just move on. Nostalgia is a big part of the promotion and the marketing push for this movie, so it's no surprise that nostalgia is one of the best things about it. Style is just as vivid and just as beautiful and just as detailed as it always was, and not only did they accomplish the nostalgia feel with the animation style, they also accomplished it with some of the voice talent. You've got Susie Eisenberg, Kevin Conroy, and George Newbern back to reprise their roles as Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman from the old Justice League series. I grew up with their voices, so obviously I was looking forward to hearing them in another animated movie, and they did not disappoint. They're definitely not here for a paycheck. These guys know how to bring these characters to life in a way that few other voice actors have, and I really appreciate the work that they did in this movie. If I were to single out some of the voice talent that's not based on nostalgia, I would single out Diane Guerrero, who plays the voice of Jessica Cruz, who is training to become the new Green Lantern. And also Kevin Michael Richardson. Kevin Michael Richardson, I feel like this dude could voice almost any character in DC. In fact, he's voiced a lot of different characters for DC. Remember Mal Duncan from Young Justice? Yeah, that's him, except in this movie he's playing Mr. Terrific, which he does a pretty good job. One other little thing about the animation is that it almost feels like it's a little bit updated. What I mean by updated is that back in the day, sometimes the animation, to try to play up the tension in fights and action sequences, they had characters move and react a little bit slower than they probably should in the circumstances. But in this movie, the animation is being used to really great effect. Characters are no longer as slow. Characters no longer get knocked down and then they're like knocked out for like 10 minutes for no reason. There is some of that in this movie. I'm just saying it feels a little bit updated where it's not as prevalent as it was before. And I really appreciated that because you can have kick-ass, tension-filled action sequences even without that little trope. Even though this is a Justice League movie, I would actually say that the majority of the movie is from Jessica Cruz's standpoint because she is trying to become the new Green Lantern. I was surprised by the end of the movie how invested I was in Jessica Cruz and her story and how well she fit with the rest of the league. She was a total badass in this movie. In fact, everybody was a badass in this movie. Everybody had their moments to shine. You really want that in a movie that is about the Justice League, but admittedly is slanted towards one character. Underrated character interactions in this movie, you gotta start with Batman and Miss Martian. They had such funny banter and back and forth in this movie. Did not expect that going into it. Putting the nostalgia aside, this is a well-made, well-directed animated film with terrific voice acting, terrific action sequences, and a very interesting and compelling story that transcends different timelines and different generations. I'd probably say that most of my issues with this movie are nitpicks that aren't really huge issues, but they're just little things that I kind of go, I gotta mark you down a little bit for that. One thing, while the Fatal Five are awesome in this movie and they're badass and they each have their individual moments fighting with the League, I did wish that they were fleshed out a little bit more as characters. And don't get me wrong, I'm not asking for an extensive backstory or character study on any of the other Fatal Five. I'm just saying, I feel like sometimes they could have done more to make them feel like people instead of making them feel like these big, powerful obstacles that the League has to get past. Also, there's a segment of this film that takes place on Oa. You guys should know what Oa is from the comics. Green Lantern stuff, look it up. There are some elements of the segment of the film that takes place on Oa that I wasn't really down with, like certain ways in which it was written that I think they could have gone a different direction with that didn't make that much sense when I sat back and thought about it. Musical score was a little bit underwhelming. I mean, it's not a bad musical score, but it didn't really blow me away. It's not that memorable in comparison to the rest of the movie. In the end, I really enjoyed Justice League versus the Fatal Five, and I'm going to put it in the Silver Age of Man of Steel. So tell me, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Put your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.